The Celtics on the doorstep of a title, but laid a brontosaurus egg in Game 4. What about tonight? Also, Reese on Clark, DeChambeau on trophy, Rory on Zoom, and Albanians on spaghetti. No! Mamma mia! No! Accidente! Ah!
Greatest crime ever committed by opposing fans. Ever. Mama Reali can't be happy.
Tonight, Game 5, Mavs try to stave after staving. Celtics try to rebound after that walkover in Game 4. Here's Jason Tatum.
We would love to win tomorrow more than anything. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. It's okay to smile during wars.
A moment of zen from Tatum there. Around the horn to George Sedano on how you hear that, how you see any potential carryover from Game 4, and how you view Boston with the championship within reach.
Tony, I just hear someone who's being reverential towards the Dallas Mavericks, who have been a really good team this year, particularly during the postseason. And, you know, Jaylen Brown, we spoke to him on the off day as well, and we talked to him, and I asked him what went wrong. And he said it really wasn't about what went wrong. It was about what Dallas did right. So it feels like the group as a collective is doing that. And Jason Tatum had an interview with our Malika Andrews recently as well, when he was asked about, you know, all the folks talking about him needing to win this championship. And he said, look, for various reasons, people keep telling me that I need to win this championship. And what I want to say to those people is, yes, I want to win that championship probably 10 or 100 times more than you do. So these guys want to win, and they just feel like, hey, that's another good team on the other side. And if we can control our business, we can be in these games with them. I remember specifically being in the huddle for Game 3 when things got really tight. And Jaylen Brown, who's been an incredible leader in these huddles, along with Al Horford, telling the guys as things got tight and it was a three-point game or whatnot, and he said, guys, we just need to play defense. We need to calm down. This is where we graduate. And that was Game 3, a turning point in the series, clearly, as they took a 3-0 lead. So I think these guys are calm. They know they can win this series, but they want to show the proper amount of respect to the other side.
So psyche-wise, all good from Sedano on Boston. Isola, how'd you hear Tatum?
Yeah, if they graduated, they got a big F for Game 4. There's no doubt about it. And it doesn't matter what Jason Tatum says. For me, it's about what Joe Mazzulla is telling them. And Joe Mazzulla knows there's a chance that Porzingis may not play. Remember, he didn't play in Game 3. They fell behind by 13 points. Doesn't play in Game 4. They got absolutely blown out. And let's remember, between Games 3 and 4, Luka Doncic was getting called out by everyone, and rightfully so, for his defense, the complaining to the referees. He was locked in Game 4, especially on the defensive end. You need your leaders in moments like this. If Dallas is going to win, they're going to need a huge effort from Luka Doncic. This will be the toughest game of the year for them to win, but I still think they have the best player in the series. That's why I give them a punch.
Oh, here we go now. All right, so we talked about the psyche of Boston. Israel, you can go there as well. But as we look forward to Game 5 tonight, any carryover from what we saw Friday night in the way Boston laid that egg and the way Dallas came back?
Well, I'll start with Tatum here. And look, I'm all about having perspective on things, on life and sports, etc. Not right here, not out loud. We know it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't win Game 5. We know that. But I don't want to hear that from my main player, my leader, the guy who, when things are tight, we're supposed to turn to you. And frankly, so far, you have not been that player yet. So I would rather, and maybe this is my bias coming through, but I would rather have somebody like Jimmy Butler give me empty guarantees every single time because I know where his mentality is versus Jason Tatum, who just came off of that Game 4 performance with his team. So we'll see how that carries over. I don't think it's going to mean much. What I do think is they have a history of losing big games in Boston. Lost a game, Game 7 last year. And so if you think about any of these other Dallas Mavericks players, a P.J. Washington here, another maybe Tim Hardaway boost of a shooting performance, anybody comes up and surprises the Mavericks, along with Luka and Kyrie performing the way they should in this game, they could lose this game. They could lose this game very easily. So I want to hear the exact opposite.
Okay, well, here we go. Now I'm hearing two panelists who are leaning, it seems like, towards Dallas, suggesting there's a path to victory here. David, how'd you hear Tatum? How do you view Boston going into tonight?
I actually do want to go back to that Jaylen Brown quote again that Sedano mentioned, where he said we graduated. And I'm wondering, who do they actually graduate into? Because they look like the exact same Boston Celtics team that blows leads, that comes up and doesn't show up for these big games, that lost to Miami and lost to Golden State in series that they probably should have won. What I'm seeing...
They had won 10 straight going into Friday night's game, David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, they have been winning those, but they've been playing worse teams. That's the thing. They are the same Celtics team. They just have the benefit of playing teams that are not nearly as good as them, which is why they're going to win this series.
Here we go.
They're beating the people who are in front of them, including a Dallas Mavericks squad that's not as good as them. So they can afford to have these stinker games and miss a whole bunch of shots in Game 2 and blow leads in Game 1 and Game 3. They're going to win tonight because they're simply better. If I'm Dallas, I do take a little bit of solace and a little bit of hope in the fact that I've outscored this Boston team 151-105 in the last 5 quarters, and the fact that I can score in the paint now. Porzingis not there, but Boston had, only shot 48% from layups and dunks in Game 4. That's not going to happen again. They're winning tonight.
Sedano wants back in.
Not because they're
Sounds like you took umbrage with the hot take from David. Please.
I just want to provide the proper context about the graduate comment to both Frank and David, which is they had blown a 21-point lead, and it was down to 3 points. And he was telling his guys, hey, this is where we can show people we've grown from the team that we were in previous years. And they did close out the deal in that specific game in Game 3.
Make a pick tonight, George Sedano.
Boston.
David, you just said Boston, and that would be their championship. But though you're not giving them the credit of being a dominant team, you're giving them the credit of beating the teams that they play against. Frank Isola tonight?
Unless Kyrie has a huge game, it's going to be Boston.
And Israel Gutierrez.
I'm going to continue to motivate the Celtics by picking the Mavericks.
Okay, I see what you're going. You guys are getting all mutes. We'll move on. The thrilling, dramatic U.S. Open. Let's go there. Crowning for Bryson DeChambeau. Brutal for Rory McIlroy. His missed putts on 16 and 18 were from 2.5 feet and 3.5 feet. You never see that. The camera's on him as DeChambeau clinched, and again as he drove off. You don't see that often either. For DeChambeau, his second U.S. Open, the crowning achievement, the way he won that bunker shot, one of the greatest of his career, he said, and the way he won over the crowd and took the trophy for a few victory laps. Around the horn, Israel Gutierrez on the headline from this U.S. Open.
To me, it has to be about Rory McIlroy. And look, I know Bryson DeChambeau looked like a crowd favorite there, but over the last several years, Rory McIlroy has been sort of the people's golfer, right? He's been the guy that people really like, and he's been trying to get this major drought done for so long. And he was right there. You guys mentioned 16 and 18. 15, he flew it over the green in a par 3 and ended up getting a bogey there also. He had his opportunity sitting right in front of him. At 16, missing that 3-foot putt, he hadn't missed one of those all season. It felt like just the adrenaline and everything was just too much for him down the stretch, and he absolutely choked that away. DeChambeau, it does a lot for his reputation. It does a lot for his, standing with the fans, winning one for the US of A. But in reality, Rory's been around longer. He's been a more accomplished golfer, and he absolutely choked that one away. That one was hard to watch.
David, your headline from this Open?
496 is the number I cannot get out of my head. Rory McIlroy has made 496 of 496 putts within 3 feet this year. And to miss 2 of those at the very end of this major, to have a situation where you now have 4 major runner-ups in your career, and the second player in 40 years to have 2 consecutive years of runner-up by 1 stroke is, we use this word a lot, it should be banned, but this is actually heartbreaking. Watching him in the back react to that video in real time. I know there's a lot of, pushback about the fact he didn't have a press conference, but we saw the emotion, the raw emotion, the actual heartbreak of him seeing that slip through his fingers. This is one of those just devastating moments in sports that I just will never forget. It was actually getting hard to watch the more that video of him in the back was scrolling through the timeline.
George Sedano.
Tony, I'm not going to say he Van de Velde it, but it's in the ballpark is what I would say, unfortunately. And I think the fact he didn't do the press conference, when David says much was made out of that, Understandably so, because he's normally not the guy that's going to walk away from those situations. But it goes to show you the agony, right, that he is going through at that particular moment, that he couldn't bring himself to have those conversations. And he's certainly, again, a guy who is great at the podium, win or lose. He's a guy that is there, and you get to see those emotions. The fact that he was that upset that he walked away really speaks volumes to me.
And Frank Isola.
I love that old golf saying, you know, drive for show, putt for dough, and you see Rory right there. If he makes that putt, that puts all the pressure on DeChambeau. And one thing about not talking to the media, unless he had something going on in his life where he couldn't, you have to sit there, I'm sorry, and answer questions, especially since you've been pretty outspoken, especially about the LIV Tour. Remember this as well. This whole thing about LIV versus PGA, moments like yesterday, it's Father's Day, a lot of casuals just watched the 4 majors. A lot of casual golf fans watched the Masters and the U.S. Open. That ending was huge for golf because that was as dramatic as you're going to get. And give DeChambeau a lot of credit. That shot out of the sand was absolutely terrific.
Gutierrez last word after the horn.
I want to give Rory a little bit of a pass for not doing the press conference. He has spoken for golf for so long, for the PGA, for these last few years. This heartbreaking time, like you mentioned, I don't blame him that much. I give him a bit of a
Dennis Jr. 7, Gutierrez 11, Frank Isola 8, George Sedano 8. Good looking panel today,
I'm not
guys.
talking.
I love the cut of your jib today. The boys are out tonight, huh? Buy or sell next.
It's a ball night.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from the Seaport. Brought to you by Patron. Perfection starts with Patron.
Fever 91, Sky 83, Aaliyah Boston looking like Aaliyah Boston again. And it's got Indiana on a win streak. The Heat in this rivalry also showing up again. Angel Reese on Caitlin Clark. Flagrant 1 was the call. Here's the postgame.
It's a basketball play. I can't control the refs. I guess some people got a special whistle.
It's just a part of basketball. It is what it is. You know, she's trying to make a play on the ball and get the block. But yeah, I mean, it happens.
Frank, what you buy, what you sell from the game?
I don't understand when she says special whistle. That's clearly a flagrant foul. I think it came down for the referees. Was it a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2, which of course is an ejection. She also got a little combative with the questions. Well, hang on. You said you wanted to be the villain, and let's remember the last time these teams met, Clark was on the receiving end of a dead ball flagrant foul, and you stood up and clapped. Now you're fouling here, so the reporters are obviously going to ask.
Okay, but the basketball play here, you thought that was a villain move? You thought that was an ejection-worthy foul?
No. Well, I did not say that. It's a wind-up, and I think the referees got it right. It was a flagrant foul. Everyone move on.
George Sedano?
Yeah, I agree with the flagrant 1, Tony, but I think the thing that I'm looking at when I see Angel Reese, and she's an incredible defender, I think that she may be taking this whole villain role thing a little too much to heart because it creates perhaps at times some undiscipline defensively, and I think she tries to go for the spectacular play perhaps a little too often depending on the situation, and I think to me that's the thing that has stood out the most in her play. There are times she's incredible defensively, and then there are times she's a bit undisciplined, and maybe that's a rookie thing too.
David Dennis Jr.?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if Angel Reese is taking on the villain role or if she's being vilified. Look at the headlines from last night acting like she assaulted Caitlin Clark for just committing an arm ball foul that, hit her in the head. It was a flagrant 1, of course, but that's what it was. What I'm actually most interested in is the actual rivalry on the court and the fact that right now we may actually have a Rookie of the Year race between the two of them. A couple weeks ago, it felt like Caitlin Clark was running away with it, but she's had some up and down games. Right now, Angel Reese leads rookies in rebounds, PER, win shares, double-doubles, and they have a real Rookie of the Year competition. I would still put it with Caitlin Clark right now, but if they continue to play like this, we may go down to the wire at the end of the series, at the end of the season, and that's compelling.
And Israel Gutierrez.
Tony, I'm trying to figure out, Frank, how you block the ball without winding up. Like, if Angel Reese sends that 10 rows into the stands, does she do it without the wind up? It was just an accident. She was going for the ball. She got the head.
She hit her in the head.
I think it was a flagrant 1.
She didn't get the ball.
And it was a flagrant 1. There shouldn't be any further discussion. But to David's point here, remember when we talked about Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson, and this is the rivalry that's going to happen in the WNBA, and some people said, well, they don't play the same position. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Every time these two have some sort of exchange, we're going to be discussing it.
Yeah.
We'll move on. Buy or sell 2, another off day for Oilers-Panthers. The awakening of Edmonton in Game 4. They had 8 goals But is it too little, too late? Israel, what to buy, what to sell today from this series, the 8-1 win for Edmonton over the weekend?
Well, I'm buying the momentum swinging to Edmonton only because this is the exact way they were supposed to win. This is the fear you had if you were the Florida Panthers. You can see the odd man rushes coming before they show up because they're so physically talented. So it scares you a little bit and it gives Edmonton some confidence. I still believe the Panthers will pull this out, but it is the last time. If you would have lost 1-0, you'd be perfectly happy. 8-1.
All right, I love this
Totally
debate.
nerve-wracking.
Whether, I'd rather lose 8-1 over 1-0. Frank Isola, you saw Edmonton wake up for the first time this series. What does it mean?
Well, I thought just like there was a lot of give up in the Celtics, I think there was a lot of give up in the Florida Panthers. When you're up 3-0 in a series with a chance to win at home, it was about time Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid did something. But I got a lot of faith in Bobrovsky in goal, so I'm not worried about the Florida Panthers.
Sedano?
Tone, who knew the scriptwriters in the NHL were cheating off the NBA the way this series is going right now? I would have never guessed that would have been the case. But ultimately, look, I look at it this way. This isn't soccer. It's not an aggregate. It's not going to help the Oilers. Bobrovsky had a similar situation where he gave up 5 goals against the Rangers, and the Panthers came back and won. The Panthers are clearly the better team from top to bottom, so I feel confident the Panthers will close this.
Okay, and David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, obviously the Panthers are still favored, but of the 2 final series, I think the Oilers have a better chance of making this competitive than the Mavs do in the counterparts in the NBA. And it comes down to the part of the series, Tony, that you know I've been following very closely. It's the goalies. It's Bobrovsky. This is the thing that I'm locked in on. He had a 95%
All right, you
save rate
finally
going into the
learned
game
the error
and
of your
allowed
ways.
5 out of 16. If they can get through Bobrovsky here and do something, this
Got a
can
little time
become
on the bench
series.
in the middle of that game. Although, if Florida were to win, are you going to go after them saying, well, they only beat the teams that they beat, and this is not proof that they're better? Oh! Wow! Oh. You can say that about every champion, David. We'll move on. Mookie Betts, broken bone in the hand after that hit by pitch. Team says it's not season-ending. Yoshinobu Yamamoto strain rotator cuff IL for him too. George, buy or sell alarm for the first-place Los Angeles Dodgers.
I don't know if I'd sound the alarm, Tony, but there is some concern. There's a reason Mookie Betts is playing shortstop because they don't have anyone there that they feel confident in a day-to-day basis. Miguel Rojas is a good defensive shortstop, but is light on the bat. They have a kid in Miguel Vargas who they could bring up that could potentially play there too. And then on the pitching staff, they've been fantastic, but they're still figuring out the Walker Buehler stuff. Kershaw's making minor league starts, so I'm a little worried, I would say.
David Dennis Jr.?
Bit.
I'm not too terribly worried. They have enough of a cushion in their division. He'll be back before the end of the season. I think they can tread water long enough that when they're in full health, they'll run through their part of the league as much as people had anticipated at the beginning of the series.
Real Gutierrez?
You're going through your most tumultuous time of the season, and yet Mookie Betts not season-ending. Yamamoto doesn't need surgery. Kershaw's coming back. You've got an 8-game cushion. Heck, you're even moving probably Ohtani up a spot in the lineup and maybe get a couple extra at-bats from him. If this is the worst it's going to be, they're going to survive.
Frank Isola.
I feel bad for Mookie Betts, but come on, no one else in that division is above 500. The bigger one is Yamamoto, who, remember, about 10 days ago, look at the way that he pitched against the Yankees. This guy has a chance to be a star, but he's got to be out there. That injury is a major concern.
You're more concerned than the Betts to be MVP this year. All right. Gutierrez and Sedano are advancing, but you got to question who they played while getting to showdown, right? David Dennis Jr.?
Yeah, just Frank.
Oh, wow, again.
I mean, I've heard this before. You can say this about every
move.
team, but it seems like it's been said about this Celtics team more than other teams. We'll take a break. Showdown next. 2 no-hitters in the season, only done 6 times before. Ronel Blanco on the doorstep of history, pulled after 7 innings and 94 pitches yesterday. He said through an interpreter afterwards, he threw a lot of pitches, wasn't going to be able to finish, so he just accepted it. He was still a dozen pitches below his season high, Israel. Should Joe Espada and the Astros have let Blanco try for history?
No, Tony, and here's why. He's actually part of a more exclusive club now. His teammate Framber Valdez and him are the only 2 pitchers to have thrown 7 or more innings with hitless baseball twice in a season without having multiple no-hitters. Look at that.
That's not a good club at all. And George Sedano.
It's only 2 people.
Tone, I feel like every sport is trying to take the fun out of the regular season, making it more and more meaningless. There's 162 games. Give us something to wish for, something to look forward to in the regular season.
I understand
this would be it.
pitch counts, yada, yada. He's still a dozen away from what you just go out in the 8th and see if he gets through it in 3 or 5 or 10 pitches. We'll move on. Euros underway in Germany. A huge upset today. Slovakia over Belgium. What did Slovakian fans rip up waffles? I don't know, because I'm here to talk about the Albanians breaking spaghetti in front of Italians and Austrians breaking baguettes in the face of the French. George, are fans going too far or not far enough?
Oh, Tone, not far enough. Let's keep adding it. You know what? I'm Cuban. If Cuba was involved, are we just throwing out the fried plantains? What are we doing here? Like, just give me more. Give me more food.
No, they started off by going too far. I don't care about a baguette.
Yeah.
If you give me a carbonara where my spaghetti is cut in half and I can't roll it around on that fork and eat it that way, get out of here. Send it back.
Right, baguettes are supposed to be broken. You're right. You can't do that to spaghetti. It's a sin against God and life. Take it, Israel.
Thank you, Tony. Klay Thompson not having the best of weekends. He unfollowed the Warriors, got rid of all his photos from his history there, winning 4 rings because, you know, passive-aggressive contract negotiations. He also got trolled by a fan he was just trying to give advice to who reminded him that he was 0 for 10 the last time we saw him on the floor. Here's the thing about Klay Thompson. If I told you he had his career-high 301 three-pointers made last season and shot 41%, you'd know that guy still got more basketball in him. Go to another team, Klay. Don't worry about the Warriors. Do your thing.
That's it. We'll see you tomorrow.
Flagrant